Have you given yourself credit for the fact that there's no dark moment or season of your life that you haven't just survived, but come out the other side? You land on your feet 100% of the time, but do you really own that? And more importantly, on an identity level, do you recognize you're so much more capable than you give yourself credit for? These are some of the major points that Mr. Anthony Trucks and I will be talking about today.
Okay, we're going.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, we're going.
Welcome to the Healing is Possible experience. I am your host, author, media personality, and emotional healing and relationship coach, Rebecca Silence. This show is meant to take you on a journey so that you can have happier relationships, healthier relationships, and a happy, healthy family. The point of life is to connect to the best of who we are. And Anthony has created the dark work. He's a former NFL superstar, an American ninja warrior, and he's here today to share with us his beliefs and methods on the dark work and how to win, but also how to have an identity that actually matches the truth of who we are. So without further ado, welcome Anthony to the show. We are so honored to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the introduction. I agree with all of it. So I'm excited to have a chat and a talk, and hopefully, not even hopefully, we will find a way to serve somebody's heart in some great way today.
Oh, please. Yes. I already have chills. One of the first questions I always ask Anthony is this: what does healing mean to you?
Oh, I'm a literal guy, right? I'm a guy that goes like I think in healing is to fix something broken, right? Or fix something that is, I guess, injured, because I'm a guy that played professional sports, and so we had injuries, and healing's a part of the game. But while there are definitively things that are physical healing, there's also emotional healing, spiritual healing, right? And if it's something's out of whack, it's bringing it not just. No, I think healing is getting it to the place where it was before it was broken. Right. You can obviously
Beautiful.
be on that, but getting to the place where it was at before.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And share with us the journey of you embracing and reinventing yourself through dark work. Let's just go right here. I mean, one of my taglines is the darkness is real, but so is the light. But how many moments and seasons, right, are we not remembering there's light because it feels so dark? Or I believe in so many cases, what I've seen in my private practice for over 15 years is in so many cases, I think a lot of people are actually more comfortable in the dark and the light gets confronting. So share with us.
There's a lot there, because I think they could be problematic in the light if you haven't done work in the dark, because you're shining a light on something. And if the painting isn't finished, or I haven't taken care of this thing, or I don't want light on it. I'm not done. I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. And so, I think people like to be in the dark because they can hide the blemishes and the tarnishing or the lack of, what they could have been doing. They promised they would do. So people like to be there, but I think it pales in comparison to what it's like to step into the light with it all dialed in. When you look at people who we admire that are in the light, those who have good marriages and have healthy bodies and they have success in business, they love to be able to share and see, not just to gloat and say, look at me, and get, the admiration, but also to say it's possible to give, to share. There's something that happens when you're able to give goodness to other people that it feels very fulfilling. It's the, opposite of altruism. And so there's that piece to it. But yeah, I think there's a discussion, because yes, darkness exists. I mean, there's windows rare, and yes, while it is heavy, and it's also the place where you can garner the most pride to go into the light, right? So if I look at what I just talked about, I want to step in the light. I want to step in the light with pride and confidence and self-esteem and this power, right? But that's only going to be possible based on the level of work, how difficult it was that I did when no one was watching. It was behind the scenes. It was difficult, because when you do that, you step with a different chip on your shoulder. You have a different sense of ownership, a different I would say deservability in your head. Like if I know I've already earned this and I've done the work for it, I deserve this, I'll fight for it tooth and nail. So for example, if I'm in a situation where I go, you know what, I want a great relationship. I really want to have a relationship where someone loves me. And if you know, like, what you did to take care of your body, what you said no to, what you said yes to for yourself, what you were consistent on, you were disciplined, maybe you went to church and built a great relationship spiritually with your whoever your creator is. Maybe you've taken time to read and to learn, and you've done stuff to work on your own ability to manage yourself and your emotions in heightened situations. When you step into the light, you deserve someone to meet you there. You won't settle for somebody less. You won't settle for someone that diminishes that or takes from you. Or so you'll stand your ground and say, this is not a relationship for me. And then by accident, which is an accident, you find that person because they've done that and they recognize that, and they'll also accept nothing less. And now, boom, you get this magical, amazing relationship. No, it was because of the relationship with you and what you did in the dark.
That is so good. And I hear the word reciprocity. When you do the dark work, what you get is reciprocity. You get to be met at the level you show up, but not because of some weird manipulative, bartering with the divine, but because it's truly aligned and a vibrational match.
Yeah.
I love this. So tell me, if you would, and we were sharing before the show, and talking before the show, and I shared with you, for me, those of you that are meeting me and joining our Healing is Possible experience family for the first time, I'm a cancer survivor. I am not a happy-go-lucky positivity person. I just know how to access possibility in any and all seasons. But the moment I feel like was the darkest for me and where I met myself was my season of cancer. It was like a seminar that allowed me to recognize it's easy to be the best of who I am and to think I beat my past and came out the other side of it when everything's going my way. But it's in the moment where it feels like nothing's going your way. And, that's when we get a chance to meet ourselves, I believe, in our version of God, the divine. What was your darkest moment or season? And can you walk us through it?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of those, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
I think you do find yourself, and I don't know if people realize this, but you find yourself and you may not like yourself. And that's a reality and a truth, but that doesn't mean that you're bad. It just means that you may not like you and you can fix it. If I don't like how this omelet was made at the restaurant, I can send it back, have them remake it. If I don't like how I made my bed, I can remake my bed, right? So just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's the end of the world. So I'm going to put that prefaced out there. But I do know for me, I had moments in time where I'd come home, like I'd done the NFL thing, right? Because my background, I grew up in foster care, was given away as a young kid at 3, and battled a whole lot of craziness and ups and downs and left and right. And, went through a journey, we'll call it. But then even after that journey, I still ended up in a place where the journey was still going because life is going. So we'll call it where I'm coming out of the NFL and I don't have a sense of self because I'm not the football guy I used to be. And I go, well, how do I become the football? How am I better? And so I found myself in a situation where I had to navigate this guy who wasn't living life to his full potential, was a bad husband, a bad father. And realistically, I didn't like him. And I spent a lot of time distracting myself with people, things, friends, parties, drinking, because I realized that when I was alone, I didn't like who I was alone with. And so when you're in that position, you just avoid those things. This was a dark place for me. I wouldn't confront and find myself. And then at one point I woke up after 3 years, had my mom pass away, and just realizing I wasn't living to the standard that she had set for me, realizing that my mom had passed away and her son wasn't living the life that she had allowed him to kind of possibly build and create. It's I got to fix this. And then I woke up on a day, it was New Year's Day, 2016. I look at the mirror and I hated the guy. I had, this woman in the bed that I just kind of met, didn't speak my language, flown from Russia, and I'm hungover. I got a hookah on my lungs, just I felt like this dirty guy, and I go, I would never want my daughter to be with a man like this. I would never want my boys. I have 2. I have 3 kids total. I'd never want my kids to be with my boys that emulate a man like me. And I go, I got to change something. And it was the first time that I stopped. I stopped. When I say stopped, everything came to a screeching halt. I replied to no women. I talked to no women. I went to no parties. I did not drink. I stayed home. I would go to work. I'd just come home and I would just sit there and I would journal and ask questions, and I would stare at walls and ask questions and get answers I didn't want to hear, but knew I needed to hear. I got to meet the guy, right? I got to find out who I was. I got to meet myself, and I didn't like myself. And then it was now a decision. Do I stay here, accept this, and just realize it's too hard to fix it? Or do I go, no, I gotta do some work. I got to do some work to get out of this hole. I've done it before. I've done it when I was a kid in high school football. I've done it when I was in college football. I did it in the pros. I did it in my relationships at times, but like I needed to do it again. It's like the final time, hopefully, you know? So I dove in. I started doing things that realistically, they didn't line up with my current character. And I say that because most people hear out of character as negative, but it's the best thing you can do sometimes.
Mm.
Out of character is into a new, positive, amazing character also, right? So that was the thing. I go, I got to try some new things. So I started stepping in and doing things, having conversation with people, accepting things, apologizing for things, like all these little areas that were really uncomfortable. But over time, you start like finding out like you feel good about yourself. You start building yourself again. You start getting more confidence again. You start finding yourself in situations around good people, feeling like you belong in certain rooms. And the more I did it, the better I felt. And at one point, I emerged into the world of what I do now. And I realized, you know what, like I can talk to this. I've done too much work in the dark to lose what I want in the light. I've done too much work on myself, too much work in my career, too much work in my relationship. And fast forward a few years, I remarried my ex-wife. We have an amazing marriage. We were divorced for 3 years at one point. Because when I had that whole hiatus after football, like I lost it all. I lost the marriage, lost everything. And the rebuilding of the process, finding myself in a better place was really what was of value to me to give to the world. And so now when I show up in the world, I'm talking from two places. One place I'm talking to is a place of what's possible, right? I'm a foster kid. I don't have very much. Statistically, 75% of inmates in prisons are former foster kids like me. So I'm
Wow.
not supposed to be doing what I do. And so I talk to a place and go, here's what's possible. I don't care what you did or how it worked out. If you work hard enough, which sounds cliche, but it is, you'll get there. Now the work is different. The work is not always easy work. The work is calculated. It's sometimes stuff that feels like out of your skin, but that's what it is. Hard is relative to everybody, and you have to do something you're not used to doing. But then two, I talk to the place of where they're currently at. I think what happens for a lot of folks is where I was at is you go, it's dark and I can do nothing about it. It's a
Mm.
very difficult place to be because I go, it's dark. I can't fix anything. Why even try? What's the point? It's not going to pan out. Like I'm just going to sit here and do this. And we spin deeper and deeper and deeper into depression and darkness. And I think it's what ends up having a lot of people homeless and out of jobs and not no friends. And like, cause you don't work. You're not fighting for yourself anymore because I get it. Nothing's panned out. So why even try? And for me, I went back to that guy and I go, well, all these things are going on. The marriage had fallen apart. The business wasn't doing very well. I wasn't a great parent. I was out of shape. I go, you know what? And all these things that are problematic, there is a common denominator, me. So if I'm in this, either I'm creating it or I'm allowing it or I'm affecting it in some way. So if I'm the common denominator, I can't be helpless. There's got to be something I'm doing or can stop doing to affect this positively. And that little seed grew into me looking at everything with that filter. Where is my fault in the marriage falling apart? Where is my fault in the business not being great? Where is my fault in the parenting? What statements have I said that I'm trying to convince myself, but if I'm honest, they're not true. I would tell myself as a father, I got a business to run. I can't make it over to the games. I can't make it to practice. And I got to be here and make the money so I can pay the bills. And right. But then you start thinking like, no, there's other ways to make money. There's other ways to set up process. There's other ways to delegate clients. It's not true, Aunt. Like you're causing a problem. You're going to have your kids not know you and not like you if you don't figure this out. So these little things that are coming into the conversation that made me do different dark work. And so when you start doing that work and you start making some different changes and you start doing different actions, when it comes to later on, you fight differently for yourself. You show up differently in the light.
That's so beautiful. Will you share just a little bit more about what it took to be willing to do the dark work with your wife? I mean, you briefly shared here. I know a little bit more about the backstory. I think that's just another statistical anomaly, right? Statistically, marriages don't recover the way yours has.
No,
And
they
one of my
don't.
major priorities is helping families and couples heal and get healthy. So will you go there a little bit
Yeah,
more,
of course.
please?
I'm happy to. That's the one that I wish she would do more podcasts with me and talks, but she's and it's not that anything bad. She's just like, it's not my world. You know, she's like, I love you. I love how you do it. She's like, share it with the world. She's like, but I'm just not going to. Uh, we are both products of divorced families. And there's like statistics that go to if you were divorced, your kids will be divorced, right? There's this statistic that goes into it, how it works. I don't know how, but something like, 53% of people who are divorced, their kids also go through divorce. Then in America, you're starting with 50% of marriages end in divorce to begin with. There's that piece of it. Then you have the aspect of I'm a foster kid. So like marriage relationship is not a big thing in what we end up doing. On top of that, we have multiples, which means we have twins, more than one kid. The statistics for multiples marriages failing is like 56 or 57% because it's just difficult.
Okay.
So you have that going on. And then adultery. My wife had an affair. And so like that fell apart, right? So all these things heavily stacked against the ability for us to say if we're going to be successful in marriage. I mean, we're probably in the low, single digits of statistics that would say this could possibly work out. And so what happened was we were 16 years old. We got together. We were kids having a kid at 20 years old. We went into this thing of life, had a couple more kids, NFL, it's fast paced. There's no stability. We don't even have like parents we can lean on and talk to. We're just running and gunning. And then it came to a point where like we hit a rocky point. We didn't have the skill sets necessary to communicate in a marriage. So she didn't communicate like, hey, you're gone every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. building your business. I'm at home with newborn twins and a 4-year-old. I can't handle this. Now, she did communicate it, but not in a direct way that would have woken me up. But it was even, I don't know, even if she had, I don't know if that guy who I used to be hears it the way he needs to. So she stepped out, not because she wanted to hurt me, but because she wanted to help her.
Mm-hmm.
It took me time to realize that one. But so she steps out and I hate her guts. I'm talking, I hate her. Like, you ruined my family, you ruined my life. You've, taken from me what foster care, would create what didn't have for me to grow up. So I have no family, all these things. It's her fault for a lot of years. And then I go through this window I just spoke to you about. And what I explain to people, it's not that I don't want to say that I forgave her and everything moved forward. I understood her. I understood that my mama gave me away, people that stole from me in business, which she did. People don't typically do things to maliciously hurt you. They're doing them to selfishly serve them, and then it hurts you in the process. And so when you go there, you go, man, what would drive someone to have to seek something that would potentially hurt someone they love? Like what would, and you go, man, there's a certain sense of, I don't want to say, I don't want to use the word pity, but there's an understanding, as a sadness. I go, man, so what happened was her choice was crappy. Like, I'm not going to take anything from that. It was a crappy choice to make. And she'll also admit that. But it took two people in a relationship to get the marriage to that point to where she even thought she needed to make a decision and put it on the table, right? That was my role. And so for me, the stepping back was going, I need to take ownership of my fault in this. Sounds odd to say my fault and her, having an affair. Like, how does that make sense? It just, if you understand it, you understand it. And if you can't yet, it's not going to be something that's going to be easy to accept. But once you do, your life frees itself open more. Because now I can step in and go, what, I can let go of this. Now, when we first navigated this, what happened was we'd gone through this years of this, and she had kind of on her own terms, she had found God. I had tried to, when we were together, kind of bring her to church. She didn't want to go. She was Catholic. I'm Christian. She's like, I don't want to go. And somehow in the interim between us, being apart, like she had this book that someone gave to her, and she started reading it on a morning where she was like, just felt the weight of the world on her. And she kind of came to Christ in her own way, her own growth, her own thing. But separately and also simultaneously, we were finally both working on each other. And so she's like, hey, I want to take the kids to Costa Rica for a getaway for like 3 weeks, but I know you can't be away from the kids. Do you want to just come? We're not together. We'll be in different rooms, I'm like, yeah, let's go do it. God. So I'm on the trip. I'm talking to a woman. Like, there's a girl. I kind of got back to the groove, and I'm talking to this girl, just one. And so I'm talking, but I'm on this trip. And so everybody in Costa Rica speaks Spanish. And so I don't have anybody to talk to. So we end up talking, and we're talking for 3 weeks, and you get a chance to understand who she is. It's like, I explain it as, I got to meet someone for the first time I'd known for 16 years. Different heart, different human, different perspectives. Like, she'd grown like massively as a human. We had these like genuine conversations about who we are and what was, and so it left very amicable, like in a sense of we weren't together. We weren't even trying to get that point, trying to get together. We left in a place where, all right, we can do the co-parenting thing. It's going to be great. Go home. And so there's a time when I had a date set up when I got back, and she knew about the date because I talked about it. We're having conversations. We're communicating well. And the day before the date, she comes and goes, hey, I prayed on it. And if I don't say this, I feel like I'm going to miss out and I'll regret it. She goes, but I want to try our marriage again. Now, what I didn't tell you is about 18 months into our divorce, we tried again. For 6 months, we tried. It didn't work. We broke up again, right? So this has been the second time trying. And she tells me this. And so first she ruins my date because I'm in my head. I'm like, well, there, So the day was all awkward. But then I came back and I go, look, I had a lot of people that supported me through the middle of our crazy. And don't get me wrong, she did some crazy stuff. And I go, I can't with good conscience go ahead and just go like, let's try again without their blessing. I said, these are people that were there to support me. And if this doesn't work again, I can't not have you and not have them. So I said, you have to get their blessing. And we left it at that. And then I think like a month later, I took a trip to Portland, Oregon to do some work for with a buddy and do some shot stuff. Like 2 days I'm out there and do my thing. And I come back and I get some calls from my friends. They go, man, I had a good conversation with her. I go, what are you talking about? It's a month later. I'd heard nothing about this. She's like, well, what good conversation with who? With Christina. About what? Why were you talking to her? And they go, hey, she called me out of the blue, said you want to come up and talk with me. And I go, all right. And so, but all of them, like my best friend, Jason, he is a hard-nosed dude. He's a police officer. Like he don't play around. He's like, I'm gonna tell you, bro. He's like, I talked to her and he says, I laid into her and she took it like a woman. He's like, I held nothing back, bro. And he goes, I learned a lot about you. He goes, you're not perfect. He goes, but I didn't think I'd give it. But I said, I'm giving you my blessing to try again, man. Like I think it could work. And that was the catalyst to us like trying again. And, we kind of eased back into it, had conversations, ups and downs and a regrouping of it back together. But now like my best friend loves her, and
yeah.
everybody, and she's awesome. My wife is incredible in what she does. I get to support her. She supports me. It's a creepy, cool marriage. Not that we're perfect, like we're not perfect. We argue, we buddy, but there's such a sense of understanding and depth. Like nothing could poke a hole in it. No one could step in. Nothing, it's just, but it's because of that darkness, because we went through that kind of crazy area. It's why it's so strong. And I've done podcasts like Tom Bilyeu and his Impact Theory, talking 100,000 millions of people subscribe to his page. And you see the comments, people go, oh, he lost me when he said he's taking his wife back. I'm not following anymore. And I go, man, it's crazy. Because if you listen to the core of it, it's not about, I took her back. It's that life opened up an opportunity for it to reconnect. I didn't go out there and say, let me take her back. It wasn't that. It was a journey to it. And that journey is where the gold's at. So the people who see it that way and just look at from the face value, they miss so much in terms of what life is comprised of, ups and downs and learning and growth and reasons and understanding. We're not going to sit here and say that it was a good choice she made. And I'm not going to say that at the core of it, I took her back just because I missed her. Like there was a journey we both had to go through to get to this point. We both have different work to do. But because of that, two things can happen. One, I can live a genuinely amazing, peaceful life with my children in my own home, which is not a normal thing for a kid growing up in foster care. And honestly, isn't even the reason we got back together. They were no part of the conversation. It was the two of us, discussion-wise. So I get to have an incredibly deep, amazing marriage, but also I get to lead and give an example to my kids of what to do in their lives so that they can avoid some of the craziness we experienced, right? And I don't care what goes on. That's what I want to be great as my kids. And so for them, hopefully can see modeled for them, my daughter, what it looks like to love a woman, like to love your wife. So she knows what to expect and what she shouldn't allow. And for my boys to understand what it looks like to love a woman, so they know how to do it and how not to do it, right? So that they can avoid headaches and hardships and heartbreak, hopefully in the future. But those are the things that are catalyst to it. But on top of all, that third thing we'll say is the rest of the world gets to have an example of what it can look like. I'm not perfect. I'm one guy in billions of people, right? But I'm one guy that's navigated something that billions of people fail at.
Amen. And one of the questions I was very excited to ask you, Anthony, is how much do you believe dark work has to do with generational trauma? What I do, for example, I'll just say this boldly, any couple out there where you're afraid that the marriage is too far gone or the heartbreak and the pain is so deep that it can't heal, I really want you to listen to possibility, not just from me, but with Anthony's story. But Anthony, what I was going to share is I've never had a case where someone in a marriage had an affair and that person didn't have a parent that on some level had an affair.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's for sure happened.
Right? Like we repeat history. So when I think of you and the dark work, and I got my dark work bracelet on. Thank you so much. I wear it all
mine
the time.
upstairs. I was going to put it on. I didn't. It's upstairs next to my bed.
I got you. I
love it. I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
I got you. So, I just have to show everybody. The box has a light in it.
Isn't that cool?
The darkness is real, but so is the light.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We learn how to cope with our pain and we inherit pain that isn't even ours. And the fact that you have created such a remarkable paradigm, foundation, different experience of family and marriage and parenting than what you had. That is what I think is so rare and so magnificent. And I just see the dark work being about generational trauma. In our audience, every client I have, they're the generational healer in the family. So I want to hear your thoughts on dark work in relationship to generational trauma. And then I want to move into an identity conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is in order to adjust those things, it's going to take work. And the concept of what dark work is, it's the hard, unsexy, misunderstood, ridiculed, sometimes like untrusted stuff you have to do that feels crazy, but that's the stuff you have to do. And I think all relationships have their own version of it. My wife is the puzzle I chose to solve. She is the one that is like no other puzzle I got to figure out. And I'm happy to figure it out, right? But I like puzzles. I think human beings, we like to be in motion. So I like figuring things out. It's always fun. No, but she's my puzzle. And with that, I find that the work I have to do is going to be unique to me and nobody else. And even in a sense of like, at this point, I don't even like kick off to friends and ask questions about, or even complain like she's doing this. I don't know what to handle. Like, I don't do that often. Here's why. Because that feedback I'll get will be based on somebody else's puzzle. Right. So if I tell him what happens, and not that it's a bad thing, I don't like hide it, but like if I tell him what happens, he gives me some feedback about his puzzle. I try to apply it to my puzzle, it won't fit. I cause more problems. I bend the pieces, right? I'm like, now I got more headaches. So I'm trying to like solve the puzzle myself. And when you do that and it's vice versa, you guys become the ones that figure out how to make everything fit. And that is the dark work. That's the stuff that nobody sees. It's unsexy, but it's why you can see us on social media happy, and you can see us holding hands in public, and you can see our kids have joy and our households peaceful. That's our light, but it's because of the things we do that you're not seeing, that are behind the scenes. When we argue, when we bicker, when we fight, like that happens, but because you understand that we're going to solve the puzzle, and that's our intention, our energy, and our effort, it properly moves forwards.
Yeah. And we get to decide who we're going to be, regardless of how it's been, regardless of what was modeled to us, regardless of what our fear and our ego and our survival self wants us to believe. And, one of the formulas I teach couples is this formula of 1 + 1 = 3. So where you're talking about, sure, there's this real breakdown that happened with your partner, you have your own opportunities to heal and expand and transform in the face of this. And in the face of this, I really get to meet and become who I want to be. I don't think we wake up one day and we know who we are. I think we get to look at who we don't want to be and who we want to become. So there's me, there's you, there's us, and we get to co-create. And this story, I just think, is such an incredible case study in possibility around generational healing and relationship and family healing. So thank you for sharing all that. And, identity, you talk about dark work also, and I think especially as identity work. So can you define identity for us and speak to dark work in your identity way? Because I think we don't realize how deeply we identify with versions of ourselves that we became, but we don't have to continue to be.
Yeah. So think of it, just to make this, we'll call it a metaphorical picture. Let's say we're all at the bottom of a hill and I want to get to the top of the hill. The top of the hill really is an identity shift. And what it looks like is I don't believe you can attain or sustain a dream above your current identity. There are certain habits, actions, perspectives, mindset that goes along with that identity, which then has that person instinctually do things in their life. Your identity, by definition, for me, is who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. That identity is creating a life. And if that person likes to, I don't know, get dough together and bake goods, they can be a baker. But if you're like, I hate bread, it can't be a baker, right? So the identity has to align with the things you do. Now, what I look at with dark work is I go, if it's the bottom of the hill, the top of the hill is that, I need a vehicle to get me to the top of the hill. Dark work's that vehicle. It's what you do to optimize your identity for that peak performance in your life. And so what I look at is, it's not enough to say, I want that. I really want to have it, or I desire it. It's you have to get to a point where you instinctually just do the things that makes that become part of your life. The cool thing is we've all done this before. Like the fact that we're all sitting here in some manner and someone could look at our life and go, how do you do that? And you go, oh, it's Friday afternoon. That's the thing for us. That happened because somewhere we did these things. Now, we'll take it away from we'll call it philosophical sense. There is a wiring we all have psychologically and neurologically in our brains that is actually our identity. And it's only done through one way, which is experience. As an example, if I have a dog come in the room and I got bit by a dog and you didn't, well, if a dog comes in, I'm freaking out. My experience tells me that my identity goes, I don't like dogs, they bite, I'm going to run away. Whereas you're going to go, oh, what a beautiful dog, right? So it's only by experience that wired me neurologically and psychologically based on experience. So what I look at is, if the top of the hill is the identity, I want a great marriage, I want a great business, I want to be great in my career, whatever it is. The only difference between where you're at and where you are, it's the experiences that you must subject yourself to elevate your identity to a level that operates to have that. So when I step in and I work with people, it's not just saying, I want to give you new habits. I want to help you take actions. I want you to do them eventually so smoothly, you forget you're doing them. It's just Friday morning, right? That's when you start living this really cool, abundant life, because you're doing what's called effortless effort. You're giving the effort, but it's who I am. It's my identity.
Right.
When you get to that level, life becomes it's creepy how cool it is. Almost like I feel bad sometimes. It's weird. I feel bad at how abundant my life is. Not because I feel bad in a sense of like I did something wrong to get it, but I feel bad because everybody doesn't have this. And I feel almost guilty. And I go, I want to give it to people, because this is something where me giving to you does nothing but fill me back up. I take nothing from my life to give to this person, but it's because of things I can do so naturally, the conversations I can have, the way I can interact and shake hands, and like these things I do, I go, this is what I'm able to do because of how hard it was to build this, but it's so effortless now. I get to live a life where I make great money. I impact great lives. My kids are happy and healthy. My wife feels protected and safe. My wife loves me. The actions that I'm doing for somebody stepping into my life would be like overwhelming. But for me, I've built them so succinctly. It's effortless effort.
Yeah. Well, and I think the who you are piece of it is so important, right? Because how much of the dark work is about what you do, and how much of it is about who you're being. But again, not to manipulate or achieve, but just because it's who you are and what you do on a beingness level.
Yeah, it's in the being. And it's where we get kind of dicey with people that go, well, it's a lot of talk of being and doing. Look at it like this. The way I look, every single person every day gets up and they have a rhythm they go to. They wake up, brush their teeth, they do this thing, they drive their car, and we don't see ourselves. There's a statement I love, and it says, it's hard to see the label when you're inside the jar. We all have labels in a jar. You're pessimistic, you're optimistic, you're joyous, you're outgoing, whatever these things are, they can be descriptions of you because it's your identity to the world. And we all think, oh, it's just who I am. No, some set of experiences created that in you, and that's how you show up in the world. If you want something more, you can't do those same low-level things and have a high-level life. So what you have to do is go, I'm done being the low-level person. I'm going to break out, do out-of-character stuff in the dark, to eventually level up to have this high level. People go, well, how do you just level up? You just do things? No. You deposit things so much based on what's called investment bias. And as human beings, we have this, meaning when I've given to something, I expect something. That's why people live in relationships they shouldn't be in for too long. I've been in this relationship for the last 8 years. I can't leave now. It'll be worth nothing. No. You have an investment bias. You think because you've been there, you have to have it. No, you've learned a lot. You can leave that and take all the lessons with you to the next person, right? But also, if I invest money, I want something back, and I want a higher amount of money. But if I invest energy, effort, discipline, hard work, the return, pride, confidence, self-esteem, a deservability for this is what I deserve in life now. So what we're talking about is if you're operating at a low level that doesn't get the thing you want, what is the thing you want? Like, who is the person that has the thing you want? What are they doing? And you may look at it and go, but I don't do that. I've never done it before. Yeah, I know. That's why you don't have what they have. We're aware of that, right? Now I go, how do you start doing that little by little by little? I don't like people going big. I say, go small in a really big way. What's a small thing you can do so succinctly, so consistently with discipline that eventually after a month, 2 months, 3 months of doing it, you wake up and go, no, that's who I am now. I am the person that always every day comes outside and greets my neighbors. I used to hate my neighbors. Now every day I say hi to them because I want to be that person. I did it. It was hard, but now I can't imagine waking up in the morning and not doing it. neither can they, right? And what
Mhm.
was once hard to do becomes hard not to do. And now it's easy. You do it. And lo and behold, you have this higher level life because the thing you're doing is bringing that to you. And it's easy to do that thing.
So is there a season of life beyond dark work? Like, is there
Heck
a
yeah.
graduation?
An emergence.
Yeah. Well, you
I call
talk
it the
about
emergence.
that.
So everything I'm talking to is a process we go through. I'm looking at my dark work experience. I have a tracking sheet. We have apps we use, and there's stages to it. The first thing is respecting the light. You plan, you structure, you create.
Mm.
Then you must design the dark, which is going through and designing what the dark work is, how it works. And then from there, you actually emerge, right? So when you emerge, it's kind of a twofold thing. The first thing is I want you to emerge, and I want you to compete with conviction for what you want. What I mean by that is I want you to, the thing you were preparing for, I want you to go do it. If you were preparing for a Spartan race, you better go run the race. If you're training in the dark for a triathlon, you better go do the triathlon. So a lot of us go, I'm preparing myself to get the promotion. Then go fight for the promotion. Compete for that thing with conviction because you've now invested. If you're biased in the right way because you've done the work, it's no brainer. I'm going to go after that. Then you're going to have what's called defining moments. These defining moments are the ones that make or break. They're the ones that you push ahead or you fall behind. I get the sale, I don't get the sale. I get the guy, I don't get the guy. And so I've looked at in those moments, something unique has to happen. You have to DOYD, draw on your dark, which means in that moment, I got to settle in and go, all right, all of a sudden this moment's come to pass. It's on the line. What have I done? Have I done enough to feel like I can't not fight for this? And while I'm talking to this consciously, it's an unconscious process. What it really is I go, oh, no, I'm going, I'm doing it. Instinctually, your body goes, we spent the last 6 months doing this. There's no way I'm not going to push for this. Hey, this is my job. And you push. And all of a sudden you get the job, right? Because you're drawing on the darkness you did, the deposits you made. You're drawing on something stronger than the other person next to you that didn't do what you did or the level that you did it. There's no clear way to see it than like a boxing match. You
Mm.
can sometimes watch a person against another person. They're in the ring, and they're both at the 9th of 12th round. They're both tired, but one of them has these eyes that are like vicious and won't die down. One of them just that while they're tired, there is zero fight that has left their body. They're in there. It's not because they did enough runs. They're better conditioned. They took a supplement. It's because they know that they did 5 more miles than that person did every day, because they know that they went there and they didn't eat that bad food. They didn't go and party. They know that they didn't cheat and do drugs. They know that they got pushed by their coach that 1 or 2 days past the level of what they thought was possible. They know they know it. You don't get to beat me right now. And they're drawing on that darkness, that deposit in the best of ways, and they knock the person out. And so while your opposition might not always be another person, it could very well be yourself or the industry, or it could be I don't know, the world we're in. Maybe just for some reason the business marketplace isn't great, but you push because you've done too much work. That's the mentality you have to bring to defining moments in your life once you've emerged out of the darkness. And at that point, you can maintain and keep fighting. You might be in the light doing the work you did in the dark, but now I'm in the light doing it. And then at some point you'll go, I want more. And when you want more, you must revisit what dark work you must do to bring your identity to a level that can attain and sustain that vision you want. And you go back into it. The goal is to get people to the point of loving the process so very much that they don't mind spending time each day in the dark. Because like there's periods where you may tuck away for a month, 2 months away from the world. The people we admire the most have done this. The Goggins of the world, who nobody knew about him for years. Dude's in the dark doing his work. And then the Wim Hofs of the world, right? But they emerge. You watch them, right? You see them. Now they'll come to the light, hop on a stage, but better believe they go and spend multiple days and weeks still in their darkness. That's who they are. They love that place. We love that pocket of, you don't know what I'm doing. I may spend 2-3 hours a day doing it and then come back to the light. I'm not gone for 3 months, but I'm still firing up. I'm still doing my work to maintain this.
Right. Well, and I think there's a difference between the dark work from that trauma perspective or the dark work from the I don't feel deserving or worthy and I have low self-esteem perspective versus the dark work from the desire zone perspective, where you're just not afraid to look at the dark, to be your own version of light in the dark, and to just keep liberating yourself even more. I feel like that's the point, right? To be as free and as liberated and aligned as possible. And Anthony, I want to tell you, I had a client I was working with a few days ago. She's going through a very difficult divorce, and they did all the work to leave no stone unturned, and it's just the right thing for them now. And I said to her, if you can survive survival, you can survive alignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to hear your thoughts on if anyone's out there afraid that if they just let themselves be in the light, the other shoe might drop, or afraid that if they go there with anything that feels too much or too dark, it'll make things worse.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say?
You have to outwork it. And to be honest, sometimes it's better that way. Sometimes it's good to go put the thing out in the world, because we think people care. They don't. They care about themselves, man. It'll be a short-lived cycle of what's going on, and you press on to the next part of life, right? But it's better to get it out there, get it done with, and then work in the background to build it. Because there's a lot of people that have done crazy, but they can build out of it, but they're willing to do the dark work. I was looking at something last night, got him Carl Lentz. You know who Carl Lentz is?
No.
There's a Hillsong Church was in New York, and during the pandemic, he was really big at his cool. He was leading a big church in New York. I think he was like Justin Bieber's, pastor for a while. And we know mutual people. I've not yet to meet this guy. And then you find out at one point in time, all of a sudden, like he's in trouble. What happens? Oh, well, he was cheating on his wife with one of the people at the church as the head pastor, right? I think he was drinking a lot, all that kind of stuff. And then he kind of got tucked away, pulled back. And I haven't really heard much from him. Last week, and a buddy of mine at a wedding out in North Carolina, I want to say it was. And at this wedding, Carl was there. I was like, oh, I haven't seen him for a while. So I went to his page to look at it. And it was beautiful how he expressed and explained like what he'd done. He tucked away. He's not in the leadership role. Like he's doing this thing, but he's owning it. Like he's transparently saying, like, this is what I did. This is how it's viewed. I've dealt with a lot of anger and vitriol, and it's been crazy, but we're still here. I'm honored to be able to have my wife with me. 20 years of our marriage, we're celebrating now. And it's a journey. Like he owned it. He put it out there. So yeah, he was in the light and the other shoe dropped, but he didn't die. In fact, I believe in a certain point in time, not that we'll say it was ever okay that he did that, but with the right work done by him, he'll be able to be of an amazing benefit to other people in the light or who are in the dark. There's going to be a joy and a benefit to it. I see that. And so for people that are in that place, it's like, it's never as bad as you think. And the problem is the longer you keep things in the dark, the longer you stay in darkness. There's difference of doing dark work and being in the dark, being stuck in the dark, we'll call it. I can be stuck in the dark and do no dark work, just be stuck there. That's like prison. That's a crazy place to be. But the idea is when you are in the dark and you do the dark work, it gives you the opportunity to shine in the light again. But you have to do that work. And sometimes even finding out what that work is first shining a light on it. If you're in the dark, it's like, let me get a flashlight. Oh, there's the hole I have to plug. I see where the water's rushing in, right? You might have to shine a light on it real quick and go, okay, I see it. Now I know what to do that'll allow me to get out of the darkness.
Yeah. Well, and I think the more dark work, the more alignment, and the more alignment, the more you have the ability to connect to your inner light and allow divine guidance in your own soul's truth to just show you. And I think you said it earlier, but let's just revisit it briefly. We don't have to get so far ahead of ourselves, right? Yeah. It's just, what's the next, I call it follow your yes. What's the next yes that's correct and aligned, even if it's scary, but it's living. It's going to bring you more alive. And I love the story you just shared, because again, we're human. And I think a lot of behaviors that have us confronted, hating ourselves, hating other people, horrified, these are inherited patterns that with dark work, you break through and you model for other people. It doesn't have to be this way. Right. And we don't have to go into shame. You talked about being stuck in the dark. I think one of the most toxic, most emotionally cancerous places we can go is identifying as the dark, or letting our dark experiences, our dark behaviors now have us decide, this is it for me. I have to identify in the dark, because darkness it can be liberating, but can also give us permission to disconnect and dissociate and just start to spiral down.
Yeah, it can. And you can get stuck in it because it's what do they say? The evil you know is better than the evil you don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I know this and I know if I can learn to endure this, I can survive in this. I'll handle it. And people do that for a lifetime.
Right.
And you think it's your existence, like you said. You identify with what your experiences of life every day, and until you change experience, the setting, the environment, then that's just who you are, and you learn to accept it and sit in that space. But you never realize how much you're missing out on.
Right.
And that's the scary part for a lot of people because there's so much that's possible for a great life if they just stepped out. But part of it, it's like my wife had a friend who had never been in shape. All her life could have been out of shape. My wife goes, how come she can't just get into shape? Like, why wouldn't she just so great? And I go, she's never had a taste of it. She doesn't, she is not connected emotionally what you are seeing. And so the idea is you got to slowly build her into it to where she gets a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and eventually gets there and goes, oh, that's what it's like. Oh, I want to keep this. And that's the hard part for a lot of people. They don't see what's possible. They can't taste and touch and feel what it is or connect to it emotionally. So they can't work in that direction properly.
Right.
And so for a lot of folks who are there, yeah, they'll get stuck in that place when the reality is you don't have to be. And I think I had this thought about like the idea is whenever you're leaving your current identity, it's like you've built this house, amazing house, you know, but the house is now decrepit. It's old, it's beat up. It's a scary, spooky house in the street during, Halloween. And you go, I don't want to live in this house anymore. This identity sucks. I don't want to be your butt. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to live on the street, so I can't leave. So I got to be. And I go, well, it doesn't have to be that way. What if you were to think about you're in this house, but what if you left it every day and you walked across the street in this open plot and you started building a brand new house, brick by brick, structure by structure, board by board, wall by wall, little by little, but you kept going home in between. I'm still this person trying this new thing. Eventually, get to the point where you go, you know what? I'm going to move out of this house. I'm not homeless. I'm going to move out and I'm going to go across the street in this beautiful, bright, brand new house. And so for us, identity-wise, it's what it is. You may have crappy stuff going on in life. I was a bad husband, bad father. I was all these things, but I left that house each day. I would go, I'm going to have a conversation with this person who I need to have a conversation, square it up. I go back to my life. You know what? I'm going to go across the street. I'm going to start taking care of my body. I'm going to start working out a little bit more and putting an hour or two into that. I'm going to start being a present father. I'm going to do this thing that's a present father. And little by little, I kept leaving this identity and going across the street and building new little pieces, new little rooms of this house. And eventually I left that house. I moved in across the street and I just take care of that house. Now I know the house across the street exists. So it makes me presently grateful for everything I have in this current house. But that's no longer my identity because I built a new one.
Yeah. Well, and you can also do it with relationships, as you've shared
Everything.
so beautifully, right? It can be a whole new relationship, two completely different people, better for everything they've been through. This is such a beautiful conversation. One more big question, and then I'd like to ask you to give us an assignment. I always love to end with homework. So how does forgiveness play into dark?
Huge. So there's two parts of, well, there's you and there's other people, right? The forgiveness portion. I think part of it is for other people, I started realizing that most individuals who need forgiveness from me, the things they did that damaged their relationship, they weren't always maliciously intent. Like there wasn't this desire to really make me feel bad. And so like my mom, when she gave me away as a kid, she wasn't trying to get me to be beaten and starved and tortured and experience craziness. She didn't know how else to take care of us. And so what happened was I got to this point where I go, wow, like this person, if I didn't know her, she wasn't my mom, that must really suck to feel like you are so incapable that you have to give your kids to somebody else to take care of them. Like that sucks. And then to know your son grew up to go play college football in the NFL, like it's got to be a heavy, shameful weight. And so I have like a compassion for it, right? So it made it easier to forgive my wife and her things. Like, gosh, it must suck to potentially it's in a situation where you know that you have to put your family on the line to get your needs fulfilled. Like it sucks to say it. It's weird to say it that way, but like, I get it. The compassion settles in. So I started learning that a lot of the people when they're doing things, now, yes, some people suck and they do things intentionally because they're just bad humans. But the people that I care about, like it sucks because there's situations where they just didn't have the tools they need in the moments. And so it led them a pathway that was not great. So it gives me an opportunity to have compassion, which helps with forgiveness. Forgiveness of self is different. It's different because we think we must punish ourselves for longer than is necessary. It's hard, but you have to find a way to realize not that you You have to have something better, but you deserve something better. As human beings, we're supposed to. And sometimes the feeling better doesn't come from serving yourself. It sometimes comes from serving others. One of the best ways you can work towards forgiving yourself is going, if I want to feel better and I want to get that feeling of worthwhile and positive, I need to start giving to other people. I need to start giving of time, giving of energy, giving of whatever it is. Because the more you give, the more you can climb out of that place and you can feel comfortable with having something good, right? My wife doesn't feel guilty anymore because of what she did in the family years ago, but it's because she gives to me, to the kids, to her clients, to her business, to the world. Like, she gives. So there's no stance for her to feel shame or guilt. There's nothing, because she's done so much to rectify and fix it. So the forgiveness to herself didn't come through just, I'm going to forgive myself. It came through creating, so she felt like she could forgive herself and she felt not guilty for what had happened. So forgiveness is an interesting monster on both sides of the coin.
Absolutely. My coach says there's no spiritual nutritional value to shame, guilt, worry. And I love that. And there's so much spiritual nutritional value to forgiveness. Okay. What's our homework, Mr.
Homework for today is this. I want you to do this. I want you to ask somebody, doesn't care who it is, ask somebody, hey, I need you to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And I need you to tell me the thing that you wish you could tell me, but you're worried I would get too angry to hear. I just want you to say it. And when you say it, I am not going to respond to you emotionally anyway for 48 hours. I can't refute it. I can't justify it. I just have to sit with it. Can you please tell me that thing, knowing that I'm not going to get mad at you? I just want to know what it is. And what this does is it gives somebody a space to tell the thing that could genuinely help your life. And it also gives them a sense of security. You're not going to fly off the handle and freak out on them. But then what you'll find is for yourself, when you circle back around to it, let's say in 48 hours, you're going to speak from a non-emotional, logical place, which will help you both navigate a solution of actions.
Amazing. Thank you. So many just gorgeous points. I hope everyone watching, your heart's a little more open and you're feeling a little bit more of the light coming into you, but also radiating from you. It is safe to source from light. It is safe to live in the light, and it's all right. The world needs us healed so we can make our most healed and biggest difference. And Anthony, again, thank you so much for joining us. This is the Healing is Possible experience. Healing isn't promised, but it is possible. And not just for some of us, for all of us. We'd love to hear in the comments your biggest takeaways today. And if you're up against it, visit RebeccaSilence.com. Take the free trigger trauma release method. Visit AnthonyTrucks.com. Is that the website?
That's the one.
For more on this gorgeous leader helping us all do the dark work, because it's all right to win in the light. And we've done too much work in the dark to not win in the light. Love you all. Thank you for joining us. See you soon. Thank you, Anthony.
Welcome.